Welcome to Bicycle Retail Radio, presented by the National Bicycle Dealers Association. Bicycle Retail Radio brings together retailers, vendors, advocates, and thought leaders for honest discussions about the latest issues facing bicycle retailers. The podcast dives deep into the challenges and triumphs of the bicycle industry, providing an in-depth look at the person behind the profession. Aiming to deliver content that's both relatable and thought-provoking, offering real-world tips and insights to help you find success in the bicycle industry. There's a human side of the business, and the podcast aims to share stories, experiences, and strategies that you can apply in your own shop. Whether you're looking for inspiration, practical advice, or a sense of community, you've come to the right place. The National Bicycle Dealer Association has a rich history of supporting retailers across the nation. Founded in 1946 with a mission to strengthen specialty bicycle retailers through education, through research, through communication, and through advocacy. The National Bicycle Dealer Association is proudly supported by our members and our membership. If you'd like to learn more about the benefits of joining, please visit nbda.com.
As we wrap up our first month with the NBDA, we're celebrating every partner that's helping bring American-made e-bikes back to life. Ride Easy offers full customization, U.S. manufacturing, and no minimum orders. Our fat tire model with auto RQ torque sensing is coming soon, so join our dealer list today and be a part of the Ride Easy future. Visit WeRideEZ.com to learn more.
All right, everyone, welcome back to Bicycle Retail Radio. This is our monthly feature, our news hour with the team at Human Powered Solutions. I'm Heather Mason, NBDA Executive Director. Human Powered Solutions is an industry-leading consultancy dedicated to advancing bicycle and e-mobility technology. They have decades of experience in product development, supply chain, and market trends, and their expertise helps shape the future of our industry. The conversation that we have every month is especially important because we dive into key challenges and opportunities for our industry. The bicycle retail landscape is shaping. We have emerging technologies, policy shifts, and these podcast episodes are designed that whether you're a retailer, supplier, or industry advocate, there's always going to be valuable insights that you don't want to miss. We pull the content from the Human Powered Solutions Bicycle Business Reporter, which is a monthly publication available on the Human Powered Solutions website. We'll link to that in the show notes, and I highly suggest if you're listening, you head over to humanpoweredsolutions.com to sign up to get your own copy directly in your inbox. All right, let's get started. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Great to have you. The 2025 November issue of the Bicycle Business Reporter, titled Tariff Updates, Optimism for Cargo Bikes and Used E-Bikes. Lots to get into, along with Steve Bina's thoughtful article, Do You Know What You're Selling? I want to start with Steve's article, Do You Know What You're Selling? Steve, I want to know just high level, what prompted you to write this piece? And why did you feel it was important to address bicycle and e-bike definitions right now?
Well, thank you, Heather. As you know, there's been this continuing debate about the different classes of e-bikes. Class 1 and 2, which are recognized by CPSC, and Class 3, which is sort of a term of art, but isn't right now a nationally recognized class. On top of that, there was another article that I read earlier this week or last week that talked about how parents were buying electric motorcycles for their kids instead of e-bikes, and how some of these were really, they were much more powerful, and they were going well over even the 28 miles per hour that a supposed Class 3 bike could run. And so it got me to thinking that with all of these different things that are out there and available, as a bicycle retailer, are you really sure you know what you're selling to your consumer? And thought perhaps it might be time to delineate some of these things, both from the CPSC perspective and what isn't right now classified or known as an e-bike.
Yeah. I mean, I hear from retailers all the time about e-motos, servicing, selling. They're looking for best practices. Came up at our annual board meeting this past November, early this year. And I want to just note to our listeners that the NBDA and Human Powered Solutions, we are actively working on an advisement doc around e-motos, and we'll have this soon. But Steve, in your view, what is the single most important takeaway for retailers when it comes to understanding how federal regulations define bicycles and e-bikes?
Well,
A lot of
again,
people to read the article, but do you have a takeaway? Yeah.
I, to really understand it, and again, go ahead and read the article because it does break down the different classes. It talks about the different conditions. In terms of e-motos, we had quite a discussion earlier today between those of us at HPS about what isn't an e-moto and how do you define it? Because right now there really is no set definition. Um, but it was, again, I referenced this article that I read last week where they were talking about some of these things are capable of speeds in excess of 50 miles an hour. Now, as a former motorcycle rider, I can tell you riding 50, 60, 70 miles an hour on a motorcycle in traffic is exhilarating enough. But to do that on a bicycle or something a little less substantive is not anything I'd even want to consider. So, know the product that it comes into your store, particularly for service, because that's one of the things that come up. Somebody buys one of these e-motos and they need it worked on. Where are you going to take it? You're going to take it back to the place you bought it, maybe, maybe not, or you're going to take it to a bicycle shop because that's what people think it is. My recommendation, Heather, is if you didn't sell it, you probably don't want to service it.
I agree with that. Yeah. Jay, do you have anything to add here? I just want to get your opinion on this too.
Well, as we've discussed, I think this has become an extremely important issue, and that is understanding clearly the definition of a bicycle compared to a moto or a non-bicycle. I do think that the industry has got itself into this position over the years because the industry searched for a way to not have to comply with the CPSC regulation and its definition of a bicycle. But as Mike will tell you, in looking at that definition, and as we've discussed, it was pretty well crafted. Somebody spent a lot of time and effort putting that together, and Mike can answer part of the question or answer the question from an engineering standpoint. But it really was well thought out, and there are really good engineering reasons to cap your velocity when driven by that electric motor only at 20 miles an hour, because the inertia mass at 28 miles an hour, that is the combination of the weight of the e-bike and the rider, I believe Mike will tell you doubles from an inertia mass standpoint, from the equation standpoint. Well, that means you're doubling the impact when you run into a tree, just to be simple. Um, the idea of can we go faster and further? Yes, that fits the marketplace. You got product that's been introduced in the past couple of weeks, as Steve says, that is motorcycle capable. It's got motorcycle-like speeds, but brings with it from its design standpoint other hazards, other issues.
Mm.
So I think that we need to get back for bicycle shops and the bicycle business specifically. We need to get back to the CPSC definition in 16 CFR 1512.2. In simple terms, electric motor of 750 watts. Mike can explain the engineering view of that. That when that vehicle with the rider is propelled across a flat surface, won't exceed 20 miles an hour. And I know from past experience that the industry knows how to test for that.
Mhm.
And will make sure that the products are proper. And the other thing I like very much about that definition is I've learned to live with it for the last 10 years, is the fact that it's throttle agnostic. It doesn't specify whether it's with a throttle or not. It doesn't try to design the bike. It allows all of the bicycle products that fall within that definition that are in the market today to be sold in the market, and leaves room for more design innovation.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like somehow the industry like adopted that 28 miles per hour was okay. And we lost along the way this like 20 miles per hour is actually the official definition of what a bicycle is. And we just kind of stretched it to the 28. Practical steps that retailers should take to ensure they truly understand what they're selling. I guess if you really want to be following federal definition, you shouldn't sell anything that exceeds 20 miles per hour. And Steve, that's kind of where your article was going. Do you really know what you're selling, right?
No, and you're exactly right, Heather, because the consumer comes in and they say, I want the fastest, I want the lightest, I want, the most design advanced looking product I can get. And typically, as a retailer, you want to please your consumer. You don't want them to ever to walk out the door empty handed. Conversely, there are some dangers that go with that if you're not really sure of the product that you're selling. Now, the other side of it is we've seen and continue to see, Jay just alluded to it, product that's available for sale now that you may think is a class one or class two product. And yet, with a simple touch on a screen or download of some additional software, now all of a sudden is a product that not only is well into being class three, but maybe even beyond that. And
Mhm.
we talk about Emoto. And so, are you as a retailer, do you truly understand that that's what's going on? And not just you, but your staff, the people that are actually doing the selling. And are you aware of some of the liabilities that just might be associated with that if you're not properly talking to your customer about what they're buying?
Yeah. The
The
last piece I want to, oh, sorry.
I was just going to say the best study I've seen shows that motorcycle fatalities are 24 times that of a car.
Mm,
And but there that's why you have things in place for motorcycles such as mandatory licensing, in most states mandatory helmets. A lot of the statistics show that a lot of the fatalities are because the rider is drunk or riding at night or is untrained. There are things you can do to reduce that 24 down to a more manageable number. But these bicycles, in quotes, are really motorcycles, and they have none of the advantages of mandatory helmet, licensing, and the equipment, turn signals, horns. It's really quite scary to think that young kids are out there without any training, popping wheelies on these things and going way too fast.
yeah.
Well
Yeah.
said, Fred.
Yeah, well said. The final piece in the article, Steve, that I just want to touch on quickly here is the insurance piece, and you emphasize the risks around non-UL certified e-bikes and that insurance exposure. Anything that retailers should be like a conversation that they should be having with their insurance brokers to protect their business?
Well, unfortunately, we live in a very litigious society, Heather. And so I would hope that as a matter of course, the retailers are talking to their insurance brokers on a continuing basis, and particularly about the products that they're selling. And again, it comes back to, do you know what you're selling? And are you communicating that properly to your broker? Because the last thing you want to do is be ignorant of what you're selling, not providing the full background to your insurance broker, and then find out that you're getting sued in a manner that may just simply bankrupt your business. So full disclosure is always the best way to go. Hiding things from your insurance broker, definitely a bad thing to do.
Yeah, have the conversation, full
Yeah.
disclosure. Yeah. Steve, it was a great
Well,
article. I have really enjoyed seeing your extra articles that, the articles that you're adding to the Human Power Solutions website. So thanks for that. Yeah,
Thank you, Heather.
Mike, were you trying to jump in there too?
Yeah, just very briefly, and to the point Steve makes is from a liability standpoint, if God forbid one of your customers is injured on a bike that is in that gray area where the its compliance with a mandatory federal regulation is uncertain or is up for debate, if that's introduced as evidence in a product liability case, that really stacks the deck against you. And it's not hard to imagine a plaintiff's attorney simply going, to your knowledge, does the bike that you sell comply with the Consumer Product Safety Commission mandatory standard? And if you can't definitively say yes, it did, or you, God forbid, you have to say no, it didn't. I mean, that's de facto liability. Hand them a blank check. And I'm sure as the insurance companies realize this even further, there's going to be a lot of action on their part restricting what you can and can't sell in terms of coverage.
And I'm going to jump in one more little piece of this, Heather. And as Mike was talking about it, if the retailer loses this case, now all of a sudden you've set a precedent.
The floodgates are open.
And the floodgates are open. And that will hurt other retailers down the line. And it could have a very chilling effect on manufacturers and distributors as well.
Lots to consider here. Yeah, Steve, great article. I highly suggest everyone do read that article. Head over to Human Powered Solutions. Let's get into the reporter now. I want to start right at the top. Common thread for the past couple newscasts here with tariffs. There's an article, Global Economy Yet to Feel the Pain from Tariffs, written by European Central Bank, Politico. Christine Lagarde, who wrote the article, warns that global consumers have yet to feel the pain from tariffs because manufacturers and importers are currently absorbing the margin squeeze. This is something that we've definitely considered was happening, but it makes me very kind of cautious and fearful for the future. Gentlemen, what do you think this means for our industry? I mean, we're already seeing retailers close, suppliers shutter. What's in store for us?
Well, just the very nature of tariffs. And even though, we've got a lot of uncertainty and chaos going on about tariffs being higher or lower, et cetera. What the head of the European Bank is pointing out is that there was this summer and early fall, importers of record in the United States were bringing in merchandise that was not yet subject to tariffs, anticipating that there would be tariffs placed, and they filled warehouses and paid for product without this higher tariff. So that's now bleeding into the marketplace. They had no choice once the tariffs were put in place to bring in product that had the additional cost. That's now moving through ports and in the backside of the warehouses, replacing the lower price product. So look at the tariff situation as applying over time. It's going to push into the future because the product is going to give way from lower price product where tariffs didn't apply to the higher price product where the tariffs have been applied. That in turn, from a cost standpoint, will be passed on. And there are several articles in this month's issue that point out the percentages that some of the folks that study this are thinking is going to be the pass on. But it boils down to 50-50. That generally the thinking is among economists and among the banks that as we get into the last quarter of this year, moving into the first quarter of next year, up to 50% of the additional cost of the tariffs is going to be passed on to the consumer. Now, this may be higher, maybe lower, depends on the commodity and the process, how it's going to fit into the whole of the economic scheme. But we're going to be seeing higher prices going into 2026, and this will apply to the bike business as well because we're an import-dependent industry. Our product is coming into warehouses, into ports, into warehouses, and it's going to be passed on to dealers and retailers of all types and consumers with higher prices that will slowly begin to add up. And if the predictions are correct, it will amount to an additional 50% in cost.
Additional 50%. Jay, that's painful. I mean, that is a lot of money. That's a
It
lot.
is. And if there are changes, which there will be, I guarantee you there will be changes. Could be lower for some commodities, for some products. But yes, you're quite correct. Painful.
Yeah.
I think, even the administration recently has de facto acknowledged that there's upward price pressure when tariffs are applied by with the new talk about affordability being on people's minds. He's reduced or eliminated tariffs on grocery items, and I think that's excellent. And the only category he left out, unfortunately, is bicycles. And that would be the next step, I think, along with other consumer goods, because grocery items are not enough to address rising prices and inflation and upward price pressure with the majority of people. So I think someone needs to call Trump up, and here he answers his cell phone, and have him add bicycles to the list along with coffee and beef and other things, and then other items as well, because tariffs equal pain.
Yeah, Fred, I'm with you. We should all be making that call. Well, let's think about the relationship between US and China. Um, yeah, businesses caught between US and China commerce is likely to be rocky for years to come. That was the Wall Street Journal logistics report. And in the summary that you did, I love how you summarized the articles. You noted that the bicycle industry is in this pain punch and that this uncertainty may grow as we wait for the Supreme Court's tariff decision, which we have what, Jay, out until June 26th for that to come. Like it really, it's a long time away.
Right.
Um, what's the best case scenario for the industry as these trade and sourcing challenges play out over the next years? Like for those brands that are caught between US and China, would you say that they need to move those relationships or like what's the best case scenario?
Well, at this point, we haven't hit upon the best case scenario per se, but there are many choices to try to make it better.
Yeah.
And they're all being tried at this point. At the retail side, as we've opined and will continue, and my colleagues and you will as well, dealers need to make sure they're doing business planning and that they're looking very clearly at redoing that plan as they see changes in the market and with their suppliers relative to sourcing. And if they keep going back, if they have to do it every day, I don't care. Bother the suppliers and ask them what's going on in the market, what's your situation on what's in stock, what the price is, what's going to happen with price changes. The reality here moving forward is we're going to have to be much more nimble and much more aware of sourcing. And I'll tell you right now, I've said this before, we could discuss it in detail if you wish, but the idea that we are all of a sudden going to replace imports with domestically produced product and do that in any kind of timely fashion is a myth.
Mhm.
It simply is not going to occur. We have no automobile industry up and running in this country that simply needs to ramp up. We have no bicycle manufacturing, no matter what you've read or may think. There is no bicycle manufacturing in the United States now at this point in time. To
Mhm.
begin to move toward replacing the import situation would be a good start. But this is going to require lobbying Congress and getting Congress to cooperate so that it's relieving the tariff pressure on componentry while we build up the manufacturing capacity. So that's another topic to work through. Should be started. We should be lobbying for it as an industry.
Mhm.
More importantly, we should be looking for which source countries. And that's in flux at this point. As an example, the tariffs just went down on Indian product. You remember it shot up to 50% at one point. It's now down to 15. You're going to find changes in the tariff structure of goods coming into the US. So watch the tariff schedules, look at the available bicycle sourcing or capability to source within the countries with the best possible tariff. I've mentioned to you, Heather, at this point, if we look today, I would recommend looking at European sourcing.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you did. Yeah.
And it's because that happens to be the lowest and the best of the tariff treatments at this point. Some of the Asian are coming down, some of it's getting better. After this last trip that the administration made to Asia, we've got a truce in the trade war with China. That, by the way, did not reduce or change the tariff burden on bicycle products, but we've got a truce. So there's the possibility of some changes there that would be positive. Vietnam has now struck an accord and they're working on finalizing the treaties. Ditto with other Asian countries. We've yet to see what's going to occur with Taiwan. So my point is watch the available sourcing and then start to look at the commitments that would give you the best pricing in the market, the best chance to have the best product in the market. Retailers need to ask suppliers how they're doing that and which of the product lines are going to give them the best buys. Don't overstock. And my advice would go to the supplier along the same lines.
Mm.
Be very careful with your replenishment. Work with suppliers to develop whole new means of replenishing product. Steve and I are old purchasing guys, and we can tell you that there's a routine you set. But we essentially were looking at turning product that we were buying in quarterly chunks every 3 months and within that 3-month time frame. Tighten that up. We're going to have to reinvent the whole process of who we bring product in from in the bike industry, and in turn, how we do business. Use AI, use whatever you have to be able to get that product on the production line, through the production line, and into your warehouse in a shorter time frame. Change the way the process works.
Yeah.
So all of that is going to have to be thought through to make sure that we've got a brighter future for the bike industry going forward. And I hope I didn't confuse, but it's no one thing. It's going to have to be a multiplicity of changes that are moving us closer and closer to a shorter lead time and a shorter turnaround time so that we can react to changes in tariff schedules.
Look USA wants to earn your business. Look manufactures pedals for most any enthusiast cyclist. We have an unmatched 40 years experience designing and manufacturing pedals that connect you to your bike. Our pedal range spans $40 platform pedals to our flagship dual-sided power pedals. We make pedals for road or off-road use. We can be your primary pedal partner. Pedals have been our passion since day one. Look's boutique bike offerings are true works of art with purpose. Offer your riders something unique so that their dream bike isn't a clone of thousands of the same model from major brands. Stock and custom builds are available with real-time inventory visibility on our B2B. Email us at sales.usa@lookcycle.com. We would love to connect.
Yeah, no, Jay, that's really good. And it actually drives me to my next question. I like how you're taking a survive to thrive perspective. It's kind of coming off of our cab to education, the drive to thrive that we're planning for next year. There was a Bloomberg editorial, tariffs are hurting the people they're meant to help. So, food prices go up, grocery stores get hurt. Bike prices go up, bicycle retail stores get hurt. Less people are riding. Maybe, Fred, if I direct this at you, in your opinion, actions that will help retailer business during this challenging period, or things that retailers could do to amplify their voice to help with door swings? Just, thinking about things to help retailers during this challenging time.
Well, I don't have any great new idea on this, because I think the sound basic principles are your only effective and proven avenue to deal with times like these, which is keep your inventory lean. As Jay has said, plan and modify the plan frequently based on market conditions. Talk to your suppliers. What are you supposed to do? You have to buy from suppliers. You have to mark it up to pay your bills and maybe make a profit. And that's your business model as a retailer. So I would just be again, it's repeating, I guess, but to be cautious.
Mm.
Look towards survival for sure. Now, there are retailers out there that are being quite successful, and somehow their market is robust still. But when you look at consumer confidence, and even the administration's approach to things is under fire now, and public opinion is lower than it was when the election occurred. We're still in a bit of a chaotic period, I think, and things will settle out for good or ill. Um, so I'm not really sure, other than and then the usual suspects, I guess we call it. We've called out the things that you can do as a retailer that don't rely on imports, used bicycles, focusing on service and repair, definitely making a plan, promoting cycling, and making your case clear. I've never really bought, as I think Jay alluded to earlier, that manufacturing to the U.S. is really going to be this possible or great thing, because these days most automation, or most of the manufacturing is focused on automation. You don't need as many people to run a manufacturing plant as you did. You need engineers. Um, so I think I guess my advice would be to just continue to pressure, and in 2016 or 2026 vote.
Yeah, that's great advice. Let's see. Let's think through this survive to thrive lens and talk about the SGB media report focusing on the resale momentum that's building as consumers seek value. We're dealing with the tariffs. Consumers are going to start to look for products that can still fulfill the need they have, but maybe are less expensive. So we're talking about used. And this resale economy is expanding, trade up opportunities. So, given that consumers we're seeing across multiple categories are embracing secondhand goods, how important is it for the bicycle industry to get on board? And then let's maybe put a call to action out there to retailers and suppliers as we see this trend accelerating. Gentlemen, what do you think there?
Well, I guess I'll start. I think it's extremely important.
Yeah.
Heather, you'll recall, and we brought this up in our spring meetings, at the cabinet meetings, and also at your summits. Um, the highest margin product that we found in retail, that you found when you did your cost of doing business study, is used,
Mhm.
is the circular economy, which is growing. You're finding it now in fashion. We're finding it in a growing number of retail markets and stores. But that has been very evident at 50% gross margin. And we hear this from people that are very deeply committed to the that market, the privacy market, where they're making higher margins, upwards of 60, 65%. And the flip side is that when the last time you surveyed this, the NBDA found in early 2025 that only 8% of the dealers were actually actively engaged in selling used bicycles.
Mhm.
That I hope has changed. That when you do your cost of doing business study, the next one, we're going to see that in the high 50 percentile or more. But I think that that has to be actively pursued, aggressively pursued. Because what we're also finding is on the consumer side, where I hold that we need to do more research and spend more money on finding out what's going on with our consumer marketplace. But more and more consumers, the evidence is showing, are turning to the circular economy. They're turning to the used market. And one of the questions recently asked in the past week by the bike industry is, if bicycle riding participation is up, why are bicycle sales down? Well,
Mhm.
I think we can answer that. The American consumer is interested in value. Used bikes are an example of value. They are value. So from the top down in bicycle pricing, and particularly with e-bikes, there is a real hunger on the part of the American consumer to get value. And I know that one of the articles we covered this month was Upway.
Mm-hmm.
And they are a big supporter of the NBDA. One of the smartest things Upway did, they're credited with, and this, by the way, folks, is Bloomberg has done an article on Upway, but they are credited with doing their business with and through bike shops, NBDA members. So I think at this point that this is so extremely important to the economic future, the survive piece, but also contributing to the thrive portion of the game plan of the playbook is I think that the whole industry has got to think through a concerted effort to get more and more dealers to get involved in the circular economy.
Yeah, I mean, I see our P2 members are talking about used bikes and definitely looking at that 100%. Yeah, and we'll get to the Upway article in a minute there. I did want to call out that article as well. I just want to stick with consumers for a second. There was an NPR article. People are having fewer kids, and their choices transferring the world's economy, shifting demographics, fewer young consumers, rapidly aging population. Worldwide markets are shaping. So given this reality, I know you're in favor of the NBDA doing a detailed consumer research report. The industry, we need it. Funding has just been hard to get as brands are pulling back because of the tariffs. I want to boil it down though. If we had this robust, up-to-date consumer research available, what would it help us understand? Would it help us why maybe we're not getting people to our sport, why they're maybe not choosing the bicycle? Would it help us understand what bicycle they want to choose next and for how much they want to spend? Um, I've tried to put a call to action out, but maybe if we have a little bit clearer understanding of why we need this so bad, it might help us.
Well, it's a direct connection to the demographics called cohorts. That is the age groups that are buying, coming into stores, buying from. Primary consumer research would allow us to do a number of things. We would first be able to define um, what consumers are buying, from whom. There's a component of the research product that you put together, Heather, the methodology that says we're going to go to previous riders, riders that have dropped off and are not riding anymore, and find out why. Why did they stop riding? One of the articles that we covered this month goes to part of that issue, which is if you don't have safe roads or safe places to ride, you're going to have trouble attracting more cyclists.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a combination that we would learn why people aren't riding, what needs to be done. We would find out about the people that are buying, who are they buying from, why do they buy from a Walmart as opposed to a specialty bike retailer, and what are the attributes? What are they looking for in the product, in the pricing, in the service, in the promises made to them and delivered? What is the integrity that they're looking for? We can peel this back in detail. And what you do about it for an individual retailer, as an example, what do they advertise and promote? What do they build into their website? What is their social media outreach? What do their IA agents, depending on how sophisticated their programming is, what are they reaching out? What are they saying to the contacts they're making? Who are the influencers? Would be one of the keys. The research will connect you to who do we want to influence so that they influence other consumers in this same cohort, in this same demographic group. You mentioned that younger people are, the general population are having fewer children.
Yeah.
Younger people are opting out, period.
Mm-hmm.
Younger people don't want to drive cars. We're finding that automobiles are becoming, at the price automobiles are in the market today, we're finding out they're becoming impossible for some of the folks out there in the general public to buy and own.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know I've gone on at length about this, but you conceivably will have direction and answers to all of those pieces. And this goes into what are the questions we should ask? Well, I've just gone through some of them. But it boils down to, again, getting answers that we can act on as retailers, as brands, as wholesalers, that will allow us to capture consumers who will spend more money with us. And
Mhm.
one last piece is, what do we have to do financially to make that happen? Not just the used product, but even within the used product, you're finding that we've got to provide financing.
Yeah, financing is really important.
Yep.
There, yeah, so much there, Jay. And we did the consumer research last year, but we self-funded it, and we just really were able only to focus on surveying riders already. But we did find out valuable information, like that they do prefer a test ride. Facebook is a spot where you can advertise to them. So we got some really great data and insight, but it would be great to do a more diverse, larger study so we can get a better hand on the general
Yeah.
population.
Yeah. Find out for bike dealers to understand why consumers will go to a Walmart, I think is important
Mhm.
because quite frankly, we can take advantage of that.
Yeah. So we're having less kids, but those who do have kids, those parents are skipping the minivan from the NPR article and they're riding cargo bikes. This is amazing. This is excellent. Improved bike infrastructure, the rise of electric cargo bikes, they're reshaping family transportation. Cargo bikes are becoming more mainstream, second to cars and even minivans. So this must create some opportunities. What should bicycle retailers be doing? Do we want to be suggesting to retailers to focus on the cargo category in store? Maybe support or reach out to their local communities and make sure that their infrastructure supports safe routes to ride? Just any thoughts from the group there?
Well, I think you start with all of the above
All the above, right? Yeah, I was thinking the same.
and careful. Now, cargo bikes are more expensive,
Hmm.
both at wholesale and at retail. So I think part of it is carefully planning your merchandising. Don't overcommit inventory. Work with manufacturers where you can have a demo on the floor, and in turn they allow you to place an order, and use that demo as a test ride demo.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um, anything that is going to help us get it in the market and get the thought in the market. And then I think the other thing you hit on is absolutely an essential for all cycling of all types to get more people riding, and that is shops have to research the routes.
hmm,
Shops have to look at their location or locations, but look at the location and work with their employees and figure out what are the best routes. Where do we get the best protection? And in some cases, I know this will be difficult, but in others, they're just waiting for the bicycle shop to find them, map them, and make sure that that's where their group rides go. That's what they introduce consumers to. That's what they make sure consumers are aware of. Being careful not to step over the legal bounds. Don't promise more than what you really legally should. But I would think that for just about all, not realizing that not all locations, particularly those that are highway centric, but that there will be safe routes available for the bulk of bike shops if they go and research them.
I agree. Yeah. And just in our local community, like I have a cargo bike, I've ridden my kids on it, gone grocery shopping. Once you get out there in the community and other people start seeing these bikes, it's like, oh, wow, I didn't know that existed. That's great. So we should definitely have, one model in stock. Be careful with your stocking plan. Maybe publish some safe routes, places to ride. But it can really transform a community, especially certain communities, I think, that are more set up to cargo and family riders.
Want a better shipping solution? Ship the best way with bike flights. You'll save time and money, whether you're selling online, processing a warranty return, or helping a customer ride a bucket list event. If you're an NBDA retailer, email partners at bikeflights.com today, and we'll get your shop set up in minutes. Bike Flights. We ship. You ride.
Talking about riders of younger age, interesting article about Florida's proposed HB 243 bill that highlights new licensing requirements, safety education mandates, and stricter rules for e-bike riders. Mike, I was wondering what you thought of Florida's proposed bill, and then additionally, just your thoughts on what responsibility retailers have in educating their consumers, their purchasers about the legal classifications, this new licensing requirement, and the proper use of e-bikes?
I, I'm not surprised by this, Heather, and I think we're seeing a lot of activity of this same nature in California right now. This is all pushback on people ignoring the rules of the road, people on e-bikes, kids that are blowing through stop signs and running into pedestrians and going faster than they should be, with a nod to the controversy associated with class three bikes. This should come as no surprise. I mean, we kind of let the horse out of the barn here with this category, and and we can go back and identify and pinpoint a lot of areas in which the emergence of e-bikes kind of took us as an industry by surprise, and then in retrospect, we should have prepared a lot better for the emergence of this category. But this is of no surprise. A lot of people are reacting negatively to this category, and they're talking to their legislators, they're talking to their congressmen, they're talking to their mayors and police chiefs about these maniacs that are out there on these dangerous electric bikes, generating all sorts of hazardous conditions for pedestrians. So. Again, not surprising. It's something we're going to have to live with. We're certainly looking at it from our perspective relative to the sorts of standards and regulations and licensing requirements. This falls into the same argument that we've been having relative to Class 3 e-bikes. Our position has been Class 3 e-bikes ought to be regulated by NHTSA. And as Fred has pointed out, regulated by NHTSA means more better safety equipment to handle the increase in speed and kinetic energy that these things represent, but also in terms of licensing and mandatory helmet usage and all of the technologies and accessories that we know and understand and believe in terms of mitigating the potential for injury when you're riding one of these things at these speeds. So again, I'm confident we're gonna see more of it permeate society here as this issue needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think we need some regulation around this. So,
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
Jay mentioned Upway earlier, so I want to talk about bikes and I want to talk about Upway. Upway was highlighted in Bloomberg's article, The Quest for a Cheaper E-Bike, and Upway's focus is on refurbishing and reselling used e-bikes at significant discounts. They've been great working with bicycle retailers. They really have helped many bicycle retailers in our community move some product during this difficult time and get some cash flow back. But it's given us an opportunity even to look at what Upway is doing with used e-bikes and talk to our retailer members about, are you selling used e-bikes, and what considerations or guidance do we want to talk about when entering or expanding into that used e-bike market? So some retailers are only selling or offering used e-bikes and brands that they sell. And then also, like, what about the battery? What about how much do we price? How do we make sure that these used e-bikes are inspected properly? So just group any thoughts about guidance for retailers when they're entering into the used e-bike market.
One point, and then you just mentioned it, the issue that I would have, which will come as no surprise, is what am I buying in terms of the battery? What
Yeah.
am I buying for resale in terms of the battery? Because as we know, a battery is a very expensive component, the most expensive single component on an electric bicycle, and it's also fraught with issues that require appropriate action to proactively make sure that A, it's safe, and B, it's offering the utility that the bike represents in the first place. I mean, a battery is the energy supply of an e-bike, and that bike's utility for the rider is going to be dependent on the health of that battery pack. And again, knowing the replacement cost of an e-bike battery, that can be a big issue. So I would be very interested, and I'm remiss for not having more insight into it right now because we do know the people at Upway, and we do admire their operations. I'd like to know more about what they do in terms of assessing the health of the bikes that they are offering for sale relative to the state of health of the battery. The good news is quality batteries integrate battery management systems with programming and circuitry on the battery management system that can gauge that battery's state of health. They look at the number of cycles that it's experienced. There are a number of provisions on the battery management system that will raise a flag if a condition that could compromise the safety or health of the battery has occurred during its service life. So I would suspect that they've got the wherewithal to look at the service history that the battery has experienced through the battery management system and then either endorse it for resale or replace it prior to selling that pack. Because again, that, from my perspective, is the single most important criteria, much more important than, the aesthetics or scratches or whatever other blemishes that an e-bike that's being offered, a used e-bike that's being offered for sale might manifest. So, battery.
Yeah.
That would be my big concern.
All right. Yeah. Anyone else?
Well, I think that the other thing that we point out in the article, or actually in the analysis, is Upway just got, I think, 28 million in additional venture capital
Mhm.
from a variety of sources, from Europe and the United States, which I think shows that, first of all, these companies are doing their due diligence. To Mike's point, I think they're finding that they are, and I've seen several articles that indicate, yes, they do go through all of that in evaluating the battery, the drive system, um, because they've got physical facilities that these products are passing through and being available from. The new investment in Upway in the United States is going to allow them to open a facility in Denver. So they'll be located in New York City, Denver, and LA, which takes them right across the country. And I'm sure we'll take a look at how the investment goes. I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of large investors doing due diligence and making sure that they're looking at both the financial capability and projections of this company, but also they're looking at what Mike points out, which is the technological capabilities of this company. Because what Mike is talking about is not just a surety for the consumer; it's product liability.
Mm.
So I think that bodes well.
Mhm.
I don't wish them any ill will, but I'm certainly looking for more competitors,
Yeah.
which would be a good sign. You guys will remember Pro's Closet,
Yep.
which
Hmm.
was now they're back in business.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know how they're doing with e-bikes, but they also had done a wonderful job with high-end product, high-end non-electric product. So let's watch it. I think where the supply side is beginning to develop. And Heather, we were introduced to Human Powered Solutions, all of us on the call from Human Powered Solutions were introduced to Upway through the NBDA.
Yeah, they've been a great member. Yeah, and we just had a P2 supergroup event for our retailers focused on selling used bikes. We had James Moore, past MBDA president, lead that conversation. We had a couple dozen of our P2 members attend that. So that just shows you the interest in really understanding how best to sell used bikes and make them a profitable opportunity for your business, be it acoustic or e-bike. So we'll definitely continue to watch this and report back. And I do know that we'll hopefully, our intention is to have some used bike educational opportunities at the CABDA and Summit trade shows for 2020. I want to talk about supplier health, supplier news for a moment. Troubling news throughout the reporter, articles on Shimano, Giant Group. The one bicycle retailer industry news reported, we heard that Rad Power Bikes is laying off 64 employees, closing its Seattle facility and potentially facing shutdown without new funding. Gosh, this coupled with couple other articles in the reporter got me thinking about the broader health of our supplier base. I know that HPS is a consultancy and works with other suppliers and really has your pulse on the industry. What are you seeing out there? Should we be worried about the health of our suppliers? Yeah, just kind of what do you see and what's your report back?
Well, the response to your question is yes.
Yeah.
Uh, be worried. Make sure you're double checking I realize that suppliers will hold it close to the vest. They're not going to say, we've got a problem, don't do business with us. They will, however, if you constantly talk to your sales reps or the in-house sales rep and you keep asking the question, you'll be able to gather information about the health and welfare of that particular supplier. These are just, look at it for what it is. The truth is, these are troubling times. We're going to see more of this in the press, in the trade press, in the general press, this being businesses like Red Power that were touted a month ago. I remember articles on Red Power being the largest of the e-bike brands in the United States and talking about the monies that they'd brought in venture capital to this latest article that I'm sure was hard for them to release the information. But, they're very close to, as they would say in the racing trade, they're in the bell lap. If something doesn't change for them, this is all over next year, which is, a month and a half away.
Yeah.
So they're no different than we're seeing in Europe. So if you break this up globally, I think you've got to be aware that the big markets of the world are Asia, Europe, and North America. And in that order, pretty much like Asia, particularly with the Chinese consumer market in the past, has been a hot market. The brands like Giant Global Group, Trek, Specialized have all been talking about in their reports, and particularly the public companies like Shimano and our friends at Giant Global Group have been talking about the high-end consumer market, the racing bike, high-end mountain bike market in China. And so we reported on the fact that China is currently experiencing a deflationary cycle, and it's characterized by dropping prices. This includes bicycles. Why is this important? Well, as we try to, in the analysis, bring to the attention of our readers, many of our brands, which I just named many of, are very dependent upon China, Asia, as one of their top markets. That market is in serious decline. It's so bad that in China, the consumer price index, the CPI, is showing a year-on-year decrease. Again, as we have reported in this month's issue.
Yeah.
It's not just housing, it's not just the real estate market in China, it's the general consumer market. So you've got a Chinese market that's not producing the profitability for the bike brands and the bicycle component people that it once did. You've got Europe in contraction, you've got the US in contraction. And so that is impacting all of the global suppliers. And you can get the Shimano and the Giant Global Group, Merida, Ideal. Those are public companies, and you can get the financial statements on a quarterly basis, even though they do a very good job of painting the best picture they can. The vast majority of the companies that we are involved in this business are private. And you won't know unless you got your ear to the ground, and be very careful of rumors, because there are going to be many, many of them leading you in false directions. So again, I advise from a retail standpoint, talk to the reps in the companies, make sure that you're working to gather information that is current, up to date, talk to other dealers, be ready to throw the rumors out at this point because there'll be a lot of them.
Yep.
But be very aware that I would say that there's nobody at this point that's not in jeopardy. And so you've got to be smart. You've got to be looking at what you and your company need to survive so that you're in a position to thrive when the market gives you the opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. And we will thrive again. I want to be clear. We will again. We just got to get there. All right, well, let's close it out. The holidays are quickly approaching, and I want to share some tips from each one of you on how retailers can make it the most profitable holiday season ever. So focus specifically on retailers. If each one of you had to give your little tidbit of advice to make it your most profitable holiday season ever, what would you say? So maybe Fred, I'll start with you.
Okay. Well, um, I guess be satisfied with it not being the most profitable ever, because that seems like maybe it's not all that realistic. But I think, there's a key difference with the holidays is that people want to buy gifts for others, and as opposed to buying stuff just for themselves. And I think it's an important difference. And so my little tidbit would be, if you're not doing it already, work your mailing list hard with gift items to help people make a gift selection for their cycling friends and family.
I like it. Yep. Gifts are being bought for other people, not themselves. I like it. All right. Jay, let's go to you.
I would, at this point, we're in the holiday season. Thanksgiving is next week. And so now we're looking forward to the Christmas holidays. And I would say for dealers, reach out to your community. Reach out with happy Thanksgiving greetings. Look at it in an affordable way. The electronic tools that we have available allow us now to reach out to large groups of people at a relatively low cost. But there's no reason not to celebrate the holidays. So start with Thanksgiving. Thank your base. Make sure you got a mailing list that's viable. This will be a way to, by the way, go through it, make sure it is, and move on and make sure you got a nice Christmas greeting. And in between, every message should be not only happy holidays to you and your family, but here's what we've got available for you to make it a better holiday. Stop in and see us.
I like it. See, this is fun. All right. Let's see. Mike, what do you have?
I'd like to build on something we talked about just a moment ago, and that's the emergence of the cargo bike category of electric bikes. I mean, I think, and it's a point that I've tried to make in these sessions in the past, is the fact that, from my perspective, one of the major beneficial attributes associated with an electrical bike is its utility. Its utility for transportation, its utility for moving cargo around, its utility for going to the grocery store. Heck, with the holidays coming up, why not dress up a cargo bike like Santa's sleigh and promote the heck out of it? I mean, it does so many good things, and it's so much less expensive than your automobile. It should be a viable option in your household for A, getting around, and B, moving stuff from point to point, including kids. So again, I think it's going to be a very, very important category in the e-bike realm, and do your best to promote it.
I like that. That's excellent. All right. See, everyone's got something a little different. All right, Steve, why don't you take us home?
Well, to build on what everybody else said, and I think particularly what Fred said, in that people this time of year may not be buying for themselves, they're buying for gifts. If the dealer doesn't have a gift card program, he might want to think about starting one up. So instead of actually selling a specific item, you sell X amount of dollars of gift giving, so that you can give someone, because more and more you see this, and you give somebody a $25, $35, $50 gift card that they can go down to the dealer and buy that helmet or buy that piece of clothing, get a new pair of shoes. Something that you may not necessarily know that the person to whom you're gifting needs or wants, but you give them that option. Say, here, go on down to the bike store. You can pick out what you need.
I like it. I like it. Such great advice. The holiday season is here indeed. Again, thank you all for your thoughtful conversation, for the work you do. Just that reporter in itself, Steve, your articles, I mean, such great insight that you're offering to the industry. So listeners, again, if you have not visited the Human Powered Solutions website, go do that. Sign up for the reporter. Go ahead and read Steve's article. In the reporter, they do a great job of just giving an analysis of how these articles impact your business or the cycling industry. There's so much there, so it can't stress to do that enough. For our listeners, thanks for listening to Human Powered Solutions. Thanks for all you do, and we'll see you next month. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for tuning into Bicycle Retail Radio, presented by the National Bicycle Dealers Association. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, please like, subscribe, or leave us a review. Sharing this podcast with your friends helps us reach more listeners and continue to bring you the best content. Remember, we host 2 shows per week with ever-changing guests and fresh content to keep you both informed and inspired. The National Bicycle Dealer Association is committed to providing valuable events, webinars, and opportunities for industry education and connection. Stay up to date by visiting nbda.com to see our event calendar. Special thanks to Francis Abbott for the promotional graphics for today's episode. If you're interested in advertising on Bicycle Retail Radio or have a guest suggestion, visit nbda.com to learn more. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time on Bicycle Retail Radio.